From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the Hourly News Blast. LGBTQ Nation is reporting the Texas Tech University system is shutting down all its academic programs centered on sexual orientation and gender identity. In an April 9th memo, Chancellor Brandon Creighton, a former Republican state lawmaker, gave provosts at the system's 5 universities until June 15th to conduct reviews to identify specific programs, official tracks, majors, minors, and certificates that meet the centered on threshold, and to submit their lists of programs to the Office of the Chancellor, the Texas Tribune reports. The memo defines centered on as when sexual orientation or gender identity serves as the primary subject, main theoretical framework, central narrative, or driving pedagogical purpose of course content, readings, assignments, or lectures. It also explicitly prohibits university instructors from teaching that gender identity is fluid and from endorsing the existence of more than 2 genders or decouple a gender from biological sex as a factual or scientific baseline. Instructors are still allowed to teach the biological reality of chromosomal variations, differences of sex development, and intersex biological conditions, but are not permitted to use these biological conditions to advocate for or validate sociological frameworks or fluid gender identities. Women's and gender studies undergraduate minors and graduate certificate programs at 3 of the university system schools are the most likely to be affected by the new policy, according to the Tribune. The memo does include exceptions for upper-level undergraduate and graduate courses in which subjects are inseparable from sexual orientation or gender identity, like the AIDS epidemic, and temporary exceptions for currently enrolled students, graduate theses, and dissertations. Current faculty can also continue to research and publish topics of their choosing, the memo says. However, it also instructs schools to freeze admissions and halt current students from declaring majors until targeted programs are phased out, and notes that future faculty hiring guidance will prioritize recruitment in alignment with this memorandum. Again, the Tribune reports. Texas Tech Associate Professor of Psychological Science Paul Ingram told the outlet that he has already heard from students who say they now regret enrolling at the school. One graduate student, he said, has already dropped out, and university faculty are openly discussing looking for new jobs. Antonio Ingram, a senior counsel at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, told the Tribune that the memo raises serious constitutional concerns around viewpoint discrimination. The memo said appears to target perspectives involving gender identity and sexual orientation for political reasons. I think in many ways this is a doubling down on a political project that is not meant to help students. It is really meant to uphold a political worldview that, Chancellor Creighton couldn't enact legislatively and is now doing through his role as Chancellor, Ingram said. The new guidance comes after Creighton instituted a system-wide review to identify courses that cover race, sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation last December. Creighton was named Chancellor of Texas Tech University System in November after serving in the Texas House of Representatives from 2007 to 2014 and in the state Senate from 2014 to 2015. During his time in the state Senate, he introduced a number of anti-LGBTQ plus bills, including 4 that stripped LGBTQ plus people in the state of local anti-discrimination protections. In 2023, he authored a bill that banned diversity, equity, and inclusion activities in the state's colleges and universities. Last year, he sponsored a bill signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott that bans clubs based on sexual orientation or gender identity in Texas schools. Speaking at the Texas Public Policy Foundation Summit in Austin last week, Creighton claimed that academic drift has resulted in quite a bit of garbage in American university curriculum, according to the Tribune. He also said that Texas Tech would use an AI algorithm to review courses. Creighton claims the changes to Texas Tech's offering will better prepare students for high-paying jobs, but Jen Shelton, an associate professor of English at Texas Tech, told the Tribune that new policy undermines higher education's role in teaching students to understand the world and would impoverish graduates as human beings. In other words, the stupidity emanating from Texas marches on. That's a news blast at this hour. The PEP Radio YouTube channel has news throughout the day. However, we won't be posting any news stories to our channel until after 5 p.m. today. PEP Radio is available on the Live 365 app, the PEP Radio page at paequality.com, Roku, and Alexa. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.